Everybody has some paper, something to write with. What I would like you to do, the very first thing, is to write a letter. But let me show you here. This is not, you're not going to read it out loud and all those kind of things, all those disclaimers I've given you before. This is just for you. And the letter I would like you to write to, it could be your son or daughter or grandson or granddaughter, if you don't have any of those, to any child that you feel close to. Or growing as they grew up, you will feel that you felt close to them, drawn to them. You have a bond. To a child, no matter how old, with whom you have a bond. That's what I'm asking. And so I want you to write this letter, and you're going to put a greeting, and I want you to put a greeting that comes from your heart for this child, no matter how old the child is. And then in the body of the letter, and I just want one paragraph at the most. It's not a lengthy letter. I want a paragraph, this body of the letter, that is somehow conveying, and this could be something that you've already told this child, that may be a child and now or an adult. You've already said, and you're just reiterating something you've already told them in the past, or this could be something you've always wanted to tell them, and you never had the opportunity, or for whatever reason you haven't done it. But I want it to come from your heart to tell this child about what's in your heart for them. The love that you have for them, the care that you have for them, all those kinds of desires you have for them, that come from your heart. I just want you to do a paragraph. It could be 3, 4, 5 sentences, something like that. And then you put you have your greeting, and then your ending, your closing. You can put whatever comes from your heart, like lovingly, or your old grandma or grandpa, or whatever it is you want to write down there, and then sign your name. But the key is, I want you to express your heart and your love's desire and all those kind of things in just a nutshell form for a child. Okay, ready to go. The same with the greeting. Personalize it however you would for this child. see you have a lot you want to say to this, which is good.
We'll be through in an hour.
Well, one more minute. You can always finish it later, but make sure you get to the ending part and sign your name with whatever the end part, your salutation. Salutation, is that the ending part? Yeah. So the front part, the greeting should be whatever term of endearment, like dear, da 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 da, with the child's name. That should be the greeting. Make sure that child's name. The body of the letter expressing your heart for that child, and the end, close it however you want, and then your name at the end. All right, we'll come back to this in a moment. The best day. Let me tell you how I got the name for this talk. It was 1 year ago, in the month of October, so October 2018. I was driving down the highway and just kind of flipping through radio stations to see if there'd be, mindlessly, just flipping through radio stations to see if there'd be some song or something that I would really want to hear. And a song came on. I didn't know the name of it. It wasn't really right. It's near the beginning of the song when I started. And I think I recall hearing that song before, but you know how it's noise a lot of times and you never really pay attention to what the song is saying. Well, it was like that with this song. But this time, for whatever reason, the song immediately kind of grabbed my attention, and so I started actually listening to the lyrics. And I didn't even know the name of the song. Later I found out the name of the song is The Best Day. Right, so anyway, in the song, a dad is singing. And the dad is singing about, reflecting about his child, his son, as his son is growing up. And the song covers a number of years. So it starts when the son is just, I think, 7 years old, and then the next scene, he's a teenager, etc. So when the boy is 7 years old, the dad's singing about they had a camping trip. And like a weekend-long camping trip, and they did all the activities and fishing and all that kind of stuff. And then he sings the response of this 7-year-old son during or at the end of this camping trip. And the son says, and he's singing, he said, "Dad, this could be the best day of my life. Best day of my life." The next scene, the boy's a teenager. And the dad is, I think maybe they've been working on a car together. Maybe he's 15 or 16. They've been working on a car together. And then on his birthday, maybe it's his 16th birthday, on his birthday, he hands his son the keys to that car that they've been working on. And once again, the son says to his dad, "Dad, this could be the best day of my life." The next scene then fast forwards to the day his son gets married. His dad is the best man. And the son is reflecting upon the dad and all that the dad has done for him, and how the dad and mom have been such a blessing and role models and all those kind of good things. And now the dad is going to be his best man. And so once again the son sings to him, "Dad, this is the best day of my life." Well, I'll have more to that story in just a few moments, but I then thought, one of the things I thought since then is the best day of my life. In other words, if I had to pick a best day, it's hard to get a best day, isn't it? Because I'm married. Well, I can't hardly say anything's better than that with my wife sitting here. And then we have 3 children. We have 10 grandchildren. It's like every one of them qualifies for a best day. But I was thinking about, like, if it's not the best day, maybe we would call it a red letter day. Like one of the best days of my life. And so I have 2, with a spiritual dynamic to it, not just birthdays and marriages and graduating from da-da-da-da. But there are 2 2 days in my life that I could point to that were the best spiritually, had a spiritual dynamic to it. And one was the day of my conversion, but that's not the day I'm going to tell you about today. The other one happened to me about 14 years ago, 13 and a half years ago maybe. And on that 14 years ago, actually it happened 14 years ago in November, last month, less than a month ago, 14 years ago, I had an experience that I call my Katrina. And I call it, that was 2005, the same year that the hurricane hit New Orleans. Well, this happened several months afterwards. My experience in November of that year, that was in August when the hurricane hit. And I call it my Katrina because I saw the similarities. The Katrina hurricane that hit New Orleans, the storm only lasted 1 hour, basically. It only hit New Orleans about an hour. It's just that the after effects have lasted years and years and years, months and months, and then into years, the after effect of the storm. Well, my storm was similar to that. It was an emotional, psychological, spiritual kind of storm that was the second most devastating experience of my life. And it all happened in a 1 hour time frame. But then the after effects lasted for years. And I won't go into it, it's just, I don't know if it's like the perfect storm on the negative side, that these things came together. And all I can really say is I was devastated. And we happened to be out of state. We were living in upstate New York at the time. But we still had our home in Black Mountain, and so I had a responsibility of teaching in a Bible college. My wife was teaching in a public school system. And so when this happened in November, we couldn't leave. My natural reaction would be, let's get out of here. I want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. But I couldn't. I could not leave. We could not leave. So we stayed until the following late spring, early summer, when our commitments were over. But in the meantime, after this Katrina, my Katrina, I was going downhill, 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 downhill. Physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, I thought I was dying. Not just in a figurative sense. I thought I was dying. Maybe I was dying. I don't know. It was in late spring, and it was getting near the time when we were going to move back to our house. We didn't sell our house. I was been longing for it, and I didn't really know if I was going to get any better when I got home. It's just that I knew that home was calling me, and I wanted to go home. Very few people knew what happened to me up there because I hardly had anybody I could talk to. But one man did know about it because he was in the actual meeting where it happened, and he was a supporter of mine, where almost everybody else was an opponent in some way, shape, or form. And so this friend of mine said to me just soon before we were going to come home, he said, I was praying for you. And of course he knew what had happened and what I was going through. I was praying for you, and as I was praying for you, I got this picture in my mind. And the picture was, you were digging like in a cave, like a mine, kind of like the 49ers in California. It was a gold mine. You were digging in a gold mine. And you were chopping away with your axe or your adze or whatever you had. You were chopping away, and all of a sudden, something comes off of the cave wall, and there, lo and behold, it was the richest vein of gold ore anybody had ever seen. Owen, he told me, you struck gold. He says, of course, I have no idea what that means. I don't know what the gold represents. All I know is that in my prayer, I saw you strike gold. You found gold. So now, shortly after that, I come home, and then a little while later my wife comes home. Her school lasted long. So now we're both home, and I'm still precipitously going downhill. And I hardly leave my house. Actually, that lasts almost 2 years that I hardly leave my house. But then later that summer, we're home, and part of my prayer now is, I don't know what this gold represents, but whatever it is, I need it. Won't you please reveal this gold to me? You know, and I'm pretty sure it's not gold coins that I'm going to find. I know the gold represents something. I just don't know what it represents, but I know it must be good. And I know, therefore, I am in desperate need of that gold. Well, about the 1st of August, I've been home now in a couple of months, and the 1st of August, we decided to go make a trip. Just a day, an overnight, a weekend trip. We're going to go to our good friend's house that live in Hayesville, North Carolina. John and Deb Rice. That's where we're going to go. We do call them in advance. Anyway, we go to John and Deb Rice's house in August of 2006. And at that time, he pastors the Church of the Good Shepherd. And we stay with them in their house. We talk through the weekend, and we go to the course of church service. And somewhere during that weekend, I don't know exactly what triggered it, but this idea popped into my head while we were visiting them, and the idea was, I need to have a silent week. Now, a silent week, I'd never done a silent week. I've done certain things for a week's period, but silence has never been one of them. And it's not a brand new idea. Remember, Job's friends come and they sit with him for 1 week without saying a word? And that was a good thing. They ended up talking too much, but it's like they stored up in that week for all the stuff they didn't say, and they said it all later. Evan Roberts, the Welsh Revival, a critical week in his journey with the Welsh Revival is he had a silent week. Didn't leave his room for a week and never spoke to a soul. I knew I had known somebody else that had done it. Well, anyway, wherever that idea came from, I couldn't say for sure I knew. I thought it was from God. I asked John and Deb, I've had this crazy idea, and they both said, I believe that is right. So, now it's the middle of August or something, my wife is teaching, and so she's gone most of the day anyway, almost all during the day. So at 6 o'clock on a Sunday evening, and we texted or emailed the kids, I won't be answering any phones, I won't be responding to any emails, I will not be communicating in any way for 7 days. And so 6 o'clock that evening, on Sunday evening, I start my silent week. The whole week, I never heard a human voice. I never spoke a word out loud. And on the 3rd day of the silent week, I found gold. The 3rd day. This was one of my greatest fears. My greatest fear was I was afraid God didn't love me. Now, I would have never, before that day, I would have never said that out loud. I was pastoring a church, after all, for many years, and you can't tell your congregation. After all, I don't really know if God loves me. We see it never really came up until my Katrina. It's in times like that, in times of crisis, times of devastation, that you don't, your heart, you gloss over those kind of things. But now, in the midst of this, is the real problem, the root problem here, that you just don't love me. Though all any doubt or fear that is hidden deep, this deep kind of stuff brings it to the surface. And I discovered it. It was a revelation to me. It was really my greatest fear. God really doesn't love me. Well, on the 3rd day, I struck gold. And you know what I found out? I found out that God does love me. That's what I discovered. Beyond any shadow of a doubt. Beyond all question. Even in the midst of my Katrina, I discovered on a heart-to-heart communication from God that He loves me. And that was my gold. happened in a very specific way. Or at least a major factor happened from reading the Bible. And I'm sure you've all had this experience where you've read the Bible and there may be a passage that you've read 100 times. And you already know what it says, so you really don't even have to read it anymore, right? Because you start the first word and you know how to finish it. But then someday, all of a sudden, you read it one time and wow, there's something there that I have never seen before in my life. And it leaps out at you, even though you've read it many, many times. But this time, for whatever reason, however, these mysterious workings of God, this time, it speaks to you in a way that is profound. Well, that happened to me on the day I struck gold. And this is what I read. Now, I'm not saying this because I know it's going to strike gold with you. Everybody's unique. God has. But I am saying this. God has a place that He's going to reveal this to you, or something like this. God has a design for you, whatever that, and wherever that may come from, or all that kind of stuff. Jesus says, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you'll find. Knock, and it will be open to you. Everyone who asks receives. The one who seeks will find. And the one who knocks, it will be opened. What man is there among you who, when his son asks for a loaf, would give him a stone? Or, if your son asks for a fish, the father wouldn't give him a snake, would he? Well, if you then, being evil, you're human, right? That means you have your moments of self-centeredness, selfishness, don't bother me, go away for now, we're human. He calls it evil. Relation to God, we're evil because we still deal with those kind of things. Excuse me. Well, if you then, you humans, are evil, and yet you know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more? Those are the words that changed my life. How much more will your Father who's in heaven give what is good to those who ask Him? How much more? Those words came to life for me. Our daughter was just in another 2 weeks was going to get married. And I was in the midst of all my other stuff. Now I was having to give my baby girl away to be married to some man. And she was my baby girl. She was the one that, was on my lap longer than all the others. And she was the apple of my eye. And I was going to have to give her away to somebody else. I'm thinking, I've suffered enough loss. I don't want to lose my daughter. I knew how irrational that was, but I don't want to lose my daughter. And so, well, if you, Owen, just a human father, love this daughter so much that you find it hard for even the idea of her leaving your home, and you're just a human. You've got all the foibles and failures of all humans. And yet, if your heart is so wrought up and so caught up in love and connection to that daughter of yours, well, how much more? How much more? And it struck me, like a ton of bricks, it struck me. Is it possible that you love me as much as I love that daughter of mine that I'm going to have to give away? Would it even be possible that you could love me like that? It is possible. How much more? It's a principle that once you see it, you will see how God will apply it time and time and time again. Well, wait a minute. If that's the way I feel, and my heart is fraught with failures and sin and all that, but if that's the way my heart feels about it, just think how much the perfect heart of God, how deeply He would feel
if it grieves my heart, well, just think how much it grieves the heart of God. If I see my child, if I'm on the sideline and my child does something and does a good play, and I'm so happy and I'm so pleased because they've succeeded, and it's a good kind of thing, hallelujah, hooray, go. Well, just think, if I'm so pleased when my child does well, I wonder if the heart of God is pleased when I do well. If my child gets hurt, and if you're a parent or a grandparent, if your child is hurt, you are hurting with that child. Well, if it's true for me and you, is it true for the God who loves us and gave His Son for us, that if we're hurt, that our God is right there hurting with us, grieved in His heart for us? Because how much more? If it's true for us and it's a good thing, how much more is it true for the God who has no flaw and loves perfectly? So, two things I'd like you to get out is your letter, and the very first thing you did this weekend was, if God were to speak to you. I'd like you to look at those. And first, the letter. This is what I'd like you to do with the letter. I'd like you to erase or cross out the name of the child to whom you wrote that letter. Erase it or cross it out. And in its place, I'd like you to put your name. Your name. I'd like you to write your name. And at the end of that letter, where you signed your name, I'd like you to erase or cross it out. And I'd like you to put the name Abba. So this child in your life, that you expressed how much love and all those things, all those heartfelt things you expressed in that letter. And it's a real love, right? It's a real love. It's a God-given kind of thing that we love our children from our heart. That's a God-given kind of thing. Well, if that's true for us with that child you just wrote, my point is that everything you wrote from your heart for that child, God would be saying the exact same thing to you. Every heartfelt desire and words and sentiments of love that you have written to that child, if that came from your heart, and you're just human, the God who created you, who loves you that much more, would be saying the exact same kind of things to you that you wrote to that child. Do you want to embrace that child? Well, I wonder then what the heart of God desires for you. Do you wish the best for that child? Do you regret that that child has had a failing? Are you grieved over that child? Do you love that child so that you can't even express what's in your heart for them? Then just think how much God must love you. If your love and my love is imperfect and His is perfect. It's one example of how much more you're on the receiving end. Can you put yourself on the receiving end of this letter from your Abba? Let's just wait a moment. So you can put yourself in the receiving end of this very love that you've expressed. My last story. Why, there's Hayden and Isaac. They're the two in front. This is when they were, maybe 4 and 2. And of course, Hayden on the left, he's our first grandson, and so they come to our house on some weekends, and he was the very first one to get to do it. After they turn 1, they get to come spend the weekend with Papa and Lita, so he was the very first one to do it. He's been doing it the longest, therefore, and I just have to say that our hearts are knit to this little boy like I never thought would be possible. Even with my own children, it wasn't quite like it is with him. Well, so he'd be sleeping upstairs on the weekends. He'd come to see us, and I'd get up first. Let's say on a Saturday morning, I'd get up first. I'd be sitting in my big chair, and he would call it Papa's chair. But then he'd get up pretty early himself. So let's say it's 6:30 or 7 in the morning. I'm sitting in this chair, and of course I'm supposed to be doing something spiritual while I'm there, but you know what I'm really doing? I'm waiting for him to wake up. That's what I'm really doing. Trying to be spiritual while I'm waiting for him to wake up. But then 7 a.m., I hear his little feet hit the floor upstairs right above me. I hear him walking across, and I hear him coming to the steps, and I hear him, he's coming down the steps like this. 4, 5, 6. He's holding on to the railing. 7. On the 7th step, he can look around the wall. And he stops and he looks around the wall to see if I'm sitting in my chair. And I am. He runs down the last 4 steps. He jumps up over the arm of the chair, and it's already in the recline. He jumps in and gets under my blanket with me, and he just sits there with me under my blanket, just so I can hold him. I have to say that 95% of the day, this little boy from that age was go, 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 go. You know, you can hardly get him to sit still. It's only the first 15 minutes of the morning would he submit to holding still and sitting on my lap. But it was his choice. He runs and he jumps and he's holding me. And they love to have books read to them, and so they're always, you know, can we read a book? Can we read a book? And we get books at the library because we know it's time. Anyway, so he's sitting there and holding him on my lap. And whether it's with children, grandchildren, or some other child, you'll recognize this impulse, this feeling of, I can't hardly believe that this little precious child has been given to us. And that this precious little child actually wants to be right here on my lap. He could be other, but I didn't make him come. He really wanted to be there. He wants to be there, and it's like you've experienced, I know it's just your heart becomes so full of love and wonder at this little being that loves his Papa and loves his Lita. And at that age, you know, they'll just throw their arms around your neck and they'll just hold you and they'll just love you, and they'll take all the love you can give them, and then they'll give it back. So, one time, he was on my lap, and I knew it's about time for him to get off, and so I said to him, wait, before you get down, I have a secret for you. I have a secret. So he puts his forehead next to my forehead. Say, no, I have to whisper it in your ear. And so he turns his head to me, whispers, Papa loves that boy. I don't know why you talk in the third person when you talk to a little kid, but Papa loves that boy. He smiles, he says, okay, can we read a book now? I said, all right, yeah, let's get down, let's read a book. But I said, wait, I just have one more secret. So he turns his little ear to me, and I said, whisper, Papa really loves that boy. Okay, let's read the book. Okay, we're going to read, but wait, just one more secret. Okay. It's the third time. And, you know, I have to say, what's in my heart is I just want him to get it. I'm out of words. I don't know how else to convey this. I don't know the words. I'm inadequately equipped to speak words that convey what's in my heart. I don't know anything to do except to add another adverb. Papa really loves that boy. Well, no, he just doesn't. He really, really loves that boy. How many reallys can I add? And so the third time I say the same thing to him, and I just add another really. Papa really, really loves that boy. Can I convey it to you? I want you to know it. You know why? Not just is it it's within me to say it, but I know that life is coming to this little boy. And he's going to be beaten down. And he's going to have things said to him that are going to try to convince him he's not worth loving. Sorry. I want him to know before he gets to that point, there is somebody who loves you. Just like you are. And I'll always love you. I want you to get this. Because I know there will be times when you're going to doubt it. This is the whisper. It's my prayer that you will also hear. Papa really loves that boy. Papa really loves that boy. Papa really loves that boy. Because it comes from my heart to do that for my friends. How much more is it in the heart of God to whisper those kind of words to you? How much more? My love for my grandsons is like a drop in the ocean compared to the love of God for each of you. He's whispering all the time. He's trying to convey this truth all the time so we'll get it, because he knows that in life we're going to be knocked down and we're going to be told that we are not worth loving. Therefore, he wants us to get it. So there'll be no doubts in our hearts. The end of the story, back to my radio. Listening a year ago in October of 18. Here's the very first thing I thought of when I heard that song. The very first feeling I had was a feeling of regret. Because I regretted that I didn't give my children more best days of their lives when they were growing up. Like this little boy was singing about his dad. I regretted the fact that I didn't give my children, not that I didn't give many, but at that moment I regretted. I wish I had given my children more best days. But the second thought was, hallelujah, wait a minute, Christmas is coming. Christmas is coming. And I wonder what it would look like if for Christmas this year, 2018, I could give my children the best day of their lives. What in the world would that look like? And so I started conniving and planning and plotting and praying. I have to throw something spiritual in there. And praying, how can I make this Christmas for each of my 3 children? How can I make it the best day of their lives? It can't be directly connected to a lot of money. I can't buy them a car and a house and a boat. No, there has to be something intrinsic, something that's at a heart level. What could I possibly do to give them the best day of their lives? And so my wife and I did it, I plotted, and we came up with 3 gifts. And I don't have time to go into what they are, but my point is, every Christmas, before we let the kids tear open, turn into the little present monsters, before that, I do a devotional at Christmas to try to sanctify this moment, of pure greed and all that kind of stuff. So I do a little devotion, Christmas devotion. But that year, 2018, I told them, I'm going to do it at the end of our gift opening instead of the beginning, because I knew what was coming. And so that at the end, I used the exact same principle I just shared with you. I told them, and I told them all, explained to everybody what the significance of these gifts were, how I regretted not giving you more special red letter best days growing up, but it was in my heart that I wanted to do that for you for Christmas. But you know what? Christmas came about in the first place because it was in the heart of God to give us the best day. The best days. Or a whole year, right? A whole year. The year of God's favor. Isn't that it? Or like in Isaiah 9. Those people are sitting in shadows in the land of darkness. And yet they're going to see a light. And when they see this light, my gift that's coming at Christmas, when they see this light, it's going to be like they're celebrating the greatest harvest they have ever had. Or they have found a treasure and are sharing a spoil of a treasure they've never dreamed of. That's what this day is going to be like. It's going to be the best day of your life this Christmas. It's much bigger than me wanting this for my kids. It's God Himself wanting this for us. The best day of your life, or the best life of all lives possible, is the heart of God for Christmas. Or the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, Isaiah 61. He's anointed me. He sent me and He's anointed me. I'm going to open your blind eyes. I'm going to take you out of prison. I'm going to set you free. If you're mourning, I'm going to take away your mourning and ashes, and I'm going to put a garment of joy around you. Because I want for you the best days of all. It's the heart of God to give us the best day. Best days. It wasn't just 2,000 years ago. I believe it's in the heart. Is it in your heart to give your children or grandchildren right now a best day? A red letter day? I believe it's the heart of God to do the same thing. So this is how we're going to close. Going to get pairs of two. That is a pair of two people. There's an odd person, then one group can have three. But pair up with somebody, and pair up with somebody that you don't know well, please. Not a relative or somebody that you came with. Pair up with another person. And this is the format. You're going to meet face to face, sitting down, that's fine. Standing up, that's fine. You're going to start with a moment of silence. You'll determine who's going to pray for whom first. You're going to be in silence for however long you need, a few moments or whatever. And if I'm praying for my wife Anita, and she's going to be the first, I'm praying first for her. What I'm asking, what I'm seeking God for is, listening to God for, is a unique, individualized way of praying for her. That God bless her with a red letter day, or give her a best day. I can just say that, God give you a best day, but I'm listening because there's probably a way of particularizing this and making it spot on for that person. And then, when you're done with that, the other person, another time of silence, and now you will wait and listen to God and pray a blessing prayer for a best day or a red letter day for the person you're praying for. We'll do that for just a couple minutes each, 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and have one last thing. Okay, could you find somebody to do that with, please? My final thought is that out of silence, beautiful things are birthed. Out of silence, beautiful things are birthed.